How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun, Daf 50 of Masechta Menachos. Friends, Daf 50, not a particularly difficult daf. In my opinion, it's a relatively interesting daf. It is a somewhat technical daf, but not in like the kind of technical, like difficult technical way. In the kind of like way that I wasn't exactly sure how to break it down in an introduction, because there's just like a lot of like this and that and that and this kind of things. In my opinion, they are nonetheless interesting. So I've broken it down thus. Assorted daily offerings, right? We learned in a Mishnah yesterday about different kinds of daily offerings. Be that the Korban Talmud, be that the Ketoris, be that the, the menorah, be that the Lechem Aponim, which is more of a weekly thing. So we learned all about all sorts of those kinds of korbanos. We learned about Tamidin and Musafin and stuff. Anyways, we're going to kind of be going through those and working through little details about those kind of daily, and I guess the Shulchan and the Lechem Aponim is weekly. And then we get to a new Mishnah on Daf Nun Amid Beis that discusses the Minchas chavitin, the daily mincha offering of a Kohen Gadol. We will discuss that, friends. Let's jump in. Friends, we begin on Daf Nun Amid Aleph 2, 4 lines into the Daf. The Mishnah had said, Lo yikrivu keves ba boker v'chulei. The Mishnah had said that if a Korban Talmud shel Shachar was not offered, you can nonetheless offer a Korban Talmud shel bein o arboim. Reb Shimon says, Reb Shimon v'chulei sekreva bein o arboim shein mechanchin es mizbach azov ele b'ktoris asamim. No. The Mishnah had talked about the Korban Talmud shel Shachar and said that if you didn't offer the Korban Talmud shel Shachar, you can offer it bein arboim in the afternoon. Reb Shimon had said, well, wait, only if you accidentally missed it or something that was beyond your control. But if you intentionally skipped the Korban Talmud shel Shachar, then you can't bring the Korban Talmud shel bein arboim. And then we talked about the Ketores, and now if you didn't offer that in the morning, you can offer it in the afternoon. Reb Shimon that says you would offer all of it in the afternoon, because the Chinuch, the Chanukas Mizbach HaKetores, the inauguration of the Mizbach HaKetores was in the afternoon. Says the Gemara, Chinuch Mandcha Shmei, what are we talking about? The inauguration of the Mizbach HaKetores, what are we talking about Bichlal? Right? The Mishnah, we just had an excerpt from the Mishnah that was a whole bunch of, as to quote one of somebody from several years ago, there was a lot of bunch of stuff there. Korban Talmud shel Shachar, Ketores, you missed this, you remember that, why did you do it? And then all of a sudden we're talking about the inauguration of the Mizbach HaKetores. No. Ma Pesher Dover. What's going on? Says the Gemara, Chinuch Man D'Chashmei, who said up is about inaugurating the incense altar. Okay. We're missing a little bit of stuff. Here is the full version. So the full version is the following. If the Korban Talmud shel Shachar was not offered, so then lo yakrivu bein arbaim, do not offer the Talmud shel bein arbaim. If you didn't offer the Korban Talmud shel Shachar, don't offer the Korban Talmud shel bein arbaim. Wait, when is this? Shelo nischanich amizbeach. That's only if we're talking about the Chanukas HaMizbeach. If the Mizbeach has not yet been inaugurated, i.e. the Mizbeach needs to first be inaugurated, well, the Mizbeach must be inaugurated in the morning first. You can't inaugurate the Mizbeach in the afternoon. Because the pasuk, forget about what the pasuk says. We'll get there soon. But once the mizbeach has already been inaugurated, well, then even if you didn't offer the Talmud shel Shachar, you can still offer the Talmud shel bein arboim. Reb Shimon, and about that, Reb Shimon says, wait a second. Even after the inauguration of the mizbeach, a mosai, when can you offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbayim, even though the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar was not offered. Bizman Shoyu Anusin O Shogin. If the reason why the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar was not offered was because either Anusin, there was something beyond their control, which forced them to be unable. For example, maybe there was a ballistic missile coming from Iran, and they had to go to the bomb shelter, and therefore they couldn't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar. Was there a bomb shelter in the Beis HaMikdash? Friends, what do you say? Was there? Well, we'll learn about it in Masechta Midos, I guess. We're going to learn Masechta Midos. We'll learn Masechta Midos. Friends, we are in March, April, May, June. In a year and 3 months, God willing, we will be making a siyum on all of Shas together. Before that time, we will have learned Masechta Midos. Masechta Midos, we discuss all of the different measurements and parts of the Beis HaMikdash. We'll see if there is a bomb shelter in the Beis HaMikdash. Maybe we don't need a bomb shelter because I guess there'll probably be like times in Mashiach. Times in Mashiach, things will be different. Maybe. Maybe because they were anusin for some reason. Shogagan, or they forgot for some reason. Aval, however, says Reb Shimon, im oyu mizidin, but if they intentionally, they just wanted to stick it. They wanted to stick it to the man or stick it to the God, and therefore they did not offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar. Lo, ikrivu keves baboker lo yakrivu ben arbaim. If that was the reason why they did not offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, well then they cannot offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. And continues the Gemara, lo iktiru ktores baboker yaktiru ben arbaim. And if the Ketores was not offered in the morning, so they can nonetheless offer the Ketores in the afternoon. How do we know this? The Tana Rabban and the rabbis taught, Ve'esakeves Asheni Taise ben Arboim. Oh, Givaldik. Sheni ben Arboim v'lo Rishon ben Arboim. This is a pasuk from Parshas Tetzaveh, friends. Parshas Tetzaveh was this past week's parsha. Chaver, learning Shnai Mikra Targum is unbelievable now, right? It's unbelievable. I couldn't wait. I was learning Parshas Tetzaveh on Shabbos. It was like the most unbelievable thing in the world. I was learning about the Chanukas HaMishkan. Basically, we've been learning, as I've said, ever since we started learning Kachim, I have like such an appreciation for like the half of the Torah that was always just like Korbanos. Now all of a sudden I want to know more about these Korbanos. I'm learning Chumash with Rashi, not just as Shnai Mikra Targum, but to actually learn what the Chumash says, because I want to see how Rashi is explaining these sugyas of Chanukas HaMizbeach, which we're learning about Mamish right now. We're learning Mamish about the Chanukas HaMizbeach. We're saying that the Chanukas HaMizbeach you have to do the Chanukas HaMizbeach, the inauguration of the Mizbeach, with the morning Korban, because the pasuk says and the pasuk right before that or after that, where are we? Yeah, Chavtes. No, what else is there? Yes, this is the pasuk I'm looking for. That the pasuk right before that pasuk says, that we learned about in Parshas Tetzaveh about the Chanukas HaMizbeach. It says, and this is what you will offer on the Mizbeach, the Korban Tamid. Then the next pasuk says, that you have to offer one Korban in the morning, one in the afternoon, i.e., as part of the Chanukas HaMizbeach, you have to first offer a Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, followed by a Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. If you miss the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, you can't inaugurate the Mizbeach with the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. Whereas Rashi explains, if you offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, Huchshur Sheni the Korban Arbaim, well then you can offer the Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. So that was just the point I'm making is that all or so many of these parshas that are coming up are mamish. You can learn the psukim in Chumash the same way that you learn the daf of Gemara in Menachos or in Zvachim. These are all like mamish things that are just like copied and pasted from the Gemara or whatever. But also you can then we can then learn Rashi on the Chumash in order to learn like, wow, okay, this is how he's explaining the sugya. Anyways, we're like insiders now. It's unbelievable. You see, when it comes to like Noshim and Ezekiel, you basically have Parshas Mishpatim, which is like completely overwhelming with like all of Nezikin just like in one parsha. It's like so much. Here we have every parsha was like another aspect of Kachin. And if we just pay attention, it's all nogea to like what we're learning. It's unbelievable. Let's go weiter. So says the Gemara. So again, Minan Emilia, how do we know this? How do we know all the things that we just said? Well, what are all the things we just said? Well, we're going to go through them one by one. To Tana Rabbanan, we learned in that the rabbis taught in a Braise that the pasuk says by the Chanukas ha-mizbeach, and the second keves will be in the afternoon. Sheni ben arbaim, the second one is ben arbaim v'lo rishon. You can't have the first one in the afternoon. I.e., you have to first offer the korban tamid shel shachar in the morning, and then you offer the korban tamid shel ben arbaim in the afternoon. So the Chanukas HaMizbeach, and that's in the context of the Chanukas HaMizbeach, so the Chanukas HaMizbeach needs to be first Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, followed by Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. Bo Med Dvar Mamurim, Shelo Nischanech HaMizbeach. So this is talking about when the Mizbeach has not yet been inaugurated, and we are looking to inaugurate the Mizbeach. Avol Nischanech HaMizbeach, however, if there was already the Chanukas HaMizbeach, if the Mizbeach was already inaugurated, well, from that point on, Afilu Rishon Ben Arbaim, you can even have the second, you can even start, right? If you didn't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, you can offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim, as the Pasuk says in Parshas Pinchas, etc. That pasuk in Parshas Pinchas is a pasuk that simply says it doesn't say anything about esakeves ha'echad. Right? The pasuk that we quoted from Parshas Tetzaveh, which is talking about the Chanukas HaMizbeach, Tavka says esakeves echad tasav boker, esakeves hasheni tasav ben arbaim. You have to inaugurate first with the morning offering and then the afternoon offering. However, in Parshas Pinchas, when it talks about subsequent Korban Tamids, you can even just have esakeves hasheni tasav ben arbaim. You can even if you didn't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, you can offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. Reb Shimon says, Reb Shimon, Emasai, wait, when can you offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim without having offered the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar? Bizmatcha oyu anusin o shogin. If the reason for missing the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar is because they were ones or because they were shogeg, avol im oyu mizidin v'lo ikrivu keves baboker. But if they intentionally did not offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, lo yakrivu ben arbaim, well then they won't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim if they were mezidin. If they intentionally skipped the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, don't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. Now, I'm going to change. Gosabach changes around the next line, so I'm going to do it with those changes. Now, frag the Gemara. Lo yakrivu keves baboker, lo yakrivu ben arbaim. I don't understand. Okay, so we missed the so they missed the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar. Now we shouldn't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. V'chikayanim chatu mizbeach batal. Because the Kohanim were shmendriks and they didn't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, the mizbeach should just sit there being batal. Omar Rav says Rav Ochikam. This is pshat. Lo yakrivu hein. The slackers, the sticketers from the morning who intentionally did not offer the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, they won't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. Aval acherim yakrivu, but others will offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim, even according to Reb Shimon. Now, moving on to Ketoris. Lo yaktiru Ketoris baboker, if the Ketoris was not offered in the morning, yaktiru ben arbaim, then the Ketoris should be offered in the afternoon. Dechem de lo shchicha umeasra chavitin v'lo pashe. That when it came to the Korban Tamid, Reb Shimon had said that if the reason why the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar was skipped was it was on purpose, well then those people can't offer the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. Reb Shimon doesn't make such a distinction when it comes to the Ketores. Why not? The answer is for two reasons. A, it was less common for the Ketores to be skipped intentionally. Why was that? Well, the Korban Tamid is just a regular Korban Ola. There's lots of Olas offered in the Beis HaMikdash all the time. We would bring people offering Korban Olas. It's kind of a standard thing. Right? Throughout the course of the day, the Kohen could offer a whole bunch of Olas. And therefore, it's not as exciting, and you might be tempted to skip it if you're lazy. Masha'enkein, the Ketores, the only time the Ketores, as we're going to learn about in a few minutes, the Ketores is only offered in the morning, right? A little bit in the morning and a little bit at night. That's it. There's no voluntary Ketores offerings. And therefore it's more, people are more willing to, it's less likely that I don't know, it's more unique than a Korban Ola where they might be willing to be lazy and skip it. Additionally, Me'asra. What does Me'asra mean? Well, Me'asra, you could switch the tuf for a shin. Me'ashra, ashir, makes you rich. That the pasuk says, Yasimu kitares ba'apecha v'cholil al mizbechecha borech Hashem chelo. Ufal yodav tirtze. That the pasuk says, Yaktiru kitares ba'apecha, that the burning of the kitares, borech Hashem chelo, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to bless you. So it makes you wealthy. I think that's probably why there's a minig. Some people like to say the parasha of kitares every day. So for those two reasons, A, it was more of a unique offering, and B, whichever kohen was zoche to run the lottery, right? They would have, remember from Masechta Yoma, they would draw lots for who does which avoida. So whoever was zoche to get the kitaris, so A, it was a more unique korban, and it was a skula for parnosa. So therefore, it was less likely that it was going to be skipped. And no such gezerah was necessary to say, well, if you did it on purpose, etc. Okay. Gewalt. So again, the chavitin de lo shchicha, since it's less common that it would be skipped intentionally, chavitin de lo shchicha, since it's a less common type of a korban, the ketores, rather than just kind of a standard ola, and it makes the offerer rich. Chavivalu, it was beloved upon the Kohanim, velo pashe, they did not intentionally skip it. Reb Shimon says, Rab Shimon, v'chula isa kreva ben arbayim, and all of the ketores would be offered in the afternoon. I believe that the machlekes in the Tanakama and Reb Shimon is that according to the Tanakama, basically the ketores, part of it, I don't remember how much it was pras baboker or pras ben arbayim, I believe. I don't know how much a process is that, half of like a mana or something? I'm not exactly sure. So I think we might get to it later in the Masechta. But basically half of the one amount, half of the ketores was offered in the morning, half of it was offered in the afternoon. So the Tanakh says if you missed it in the morning, so then just in the afternoon offer the half. Don't offer all of it. Reb Shimon says if you offer in the afternoon, you're going to offer all of it. Okay. She'ein Mechanchen is as Mizbach Hazov, Ela B'Ktoris Asam Shabin Abayim V'chule, because the Mizbach Hazov, the Mizbach HaKtoris, was inaugurated with the Ketoris in the afternoon. Okay, and what's the point? And I guess that when they did that, then they offered like all of it when they inaugurated it in the afternoon. Why are we assuming that the Mizbach HaKetoris was inaugurated with the afternoon incense? I thought it was all inaugurated with the morning incense. Tanoi, it's a machlekes tanoim. Abaye mistaver kmandomer b'ktores asamim shalbein arboim. Says Abaye, it makes more sense to say like the opinion that the Mizbach Hazov was inaugurated with the afternoon incense. Why does that make sense? Tichsiv baboker betivos aneros yaktirenu. That the posik says, we have two psukim. Let us read the two psukim. Right, these are also at the end of Parshas Tetzaveh. That was last week's parsha. V'iktir olav aharon k'toris samim baboker betivos aneros yaktirenu. That Aharon, but really the Kohen, right? Because any kohen would burn the Keturah. So it was one of the avodas that the kohanim would take lotteries to see who did it. So again, Victor Allah Vaharin Keturah Sam Baboka Betivo Saneris Yaktuena. And then the next pasuk says, Vahalas Aharonis an Neris ben Arboyim Yaktuena. That basically the burning of the Keturahs is linked with the menorah, i.e., that the menorah was lit in the afternoon and it burnt from the afternoon throughout the night until the morning. And they would light the menorah in the afternoon and they would clean out the menorah from the burnt out wicks and things in the morning. And the burning of the Keturahs is linked to those two activities. Right? It says, Vahalos Aharonis haneros ben arboim yaktirenu, that in the afternoon, when Aharon lights the menorah, that is when the afternoon incense would be burnt. And then it says, right, Victor Allah Aharon, right, in the previous pasuk, and every morning when cleaning out the menorah, the morning incense would be burnt. So the incense was linked with the menorah. It was lit when the menorah was lit, the incense was burned. When the menorah was cleaned out, the incense was burned. And therefore, when it comes to the morning Keturahs, since the morning Keturahs is being burnt when the menorah is being cleaned out, the fact that it's being cleaned out means that it was already lit from the night before, and now you're cleaning it out, which means clearly whenever the menorah was being cleaned out for the first time, it had already obviously been lit for the first time the night before. And since the Keturahs is linked with the lighting of the menorah, well, when the first time the menorah was lit, it would have been lit in the afternoon, and that is when we would have then offered the incense for the first time as well, with the menorah being lit for the first time, and therefore it makes sense that the first time that the incense was burned was the first time that the menorah was burned, i.e. in the afternoon. And in the following morning, when the menorah was cleaned out for the first time, that would be when the incense was burnt for the second time, i.e. the first time that it was being burnt in the morning, to coincide with the menorah being cleaned out. I hope that was clear. It's a fast day today, so I think I'm doing fine, but it's a little different. Right? So on the one hand, we're saying that the Keturahs is inaugurated, the Mizbach Azov is inaugurated in the afternoon. However, there's a brayso that says in the morning. Tanoi, it's a machlokes Tanoim. Abaye says, Abaye mistavik commando Omri Keturahs asam shel bin arboim. Says Abaye, it makes more sense to say like the opinion that the first time the incense was burnt was in the afternoon. The apostle says, that every morning when cleaning out the menorah, that's when you would burn it in the morning. Now, ilav da'avad ad lokame urta, and if not for the fact that it was already lit from the night before, why would you be cleaning it out in the morning? Clearly, from the fact you're cleaning it out in the morning, is because you had lit it from the day before. And since you had lit it the afternoon before, that's when you would have already burnt the incense as well. And according to the opinion who says that the incense was burned for the first time in the morning, Gomar mi mizbach ole learns from the mizbach ole malaholim b'tom shel shachar av kan b'ktoris asam shel shachar. He says, well, look, the korban, right? I think at least in the Mishnah, the juxtaposition of the korban tom shel shachar and the ketoris are next to each other. Never mind about the juxtaposition in the Mishnah, but rather he simply compares the ketoris to the Talmud Shachar, just like the Talmud Shachar was inaugurated in the morning. Also, the Ketoris was inaugurated in the morning. It's a mematzinu, just like we see by the Talmud Shachar was inaugurated in the morning. Also, the Ketoris, the Zelba, Zaf, the same thing. The Mishnah had said that the Shulchan, the table in the Heichel, with the Lechem Aponim on it, the showbreads on it, was inaugurated on Shabbos. Ela b'chol ichanuche hu delo mechanech or kadushe mikadesh. So is this to imply that the Chanukas HaShulchan was on Shabbos and not during the week? But what about the fact that when the showbreads were put on the Shulchan, they became kadosh, they became holy? Could that be during the week? We've seen that Dafka, the Chanukas HaShulchan was on Shabbos and not during the week, but the ability of the Shulchan to be Mekadesh, the breads, that could be done even during the week. The Shulchan can be Mekadesh the breads even during the week. Hagufa Kamash Malon. So the Gemara answers no. It's Dafka teaching the Chinuch V'Kiddush the Shulchan b'Shabbos. Who? No, what the Mishnah is teaching, that not only the Chanukas HaShulchan, but also its ability to be Mekadesh the breads that are on it was Dafka on Shabbos Kitikatani Seifa, and that is where the juxtaposition comes in, as we say V'loas HaMenorah Ela B'Shiva Nerusea Ben Arbain, that in the Mishnah right next to the Shulchan is the menorah, and that the menorah was inaugurated by lighting its 7 candles in the afternoon. And just like when it comes to the menorah, there is no concept of being mekadesh anything. It is just all there was the Chanukas menorah, that the inauguration of the menorah, the first time it was lit, that was in the afternoon, and that was kind of when you inaugurated, and that was everything, right? Just like that was the whole shebang, the inauguration of it. So also when it comes to the Shulchan, when on Shabbos, when the breads were put on it, not only was that the inauguration of the Shulchan, but that was also when it would be Mekadesh as well. That meaning, just like when the Mishnah is talking about the menorah, it's talking about everything related to the menorah. Also when it comes to the Shulchan, it's talking about everything related to the Shulchan, the inauguration of the Shulchan being Mekadesh, the breads, everything that would be on Shabbos. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Zeu Ketoris she'olso liyochid amizbeach achitzon v'aras shah, that we have a brayso that says that there was one instance, it was a hora shah, that there was one instance of the Ketoris of an individual being brought on the mizbeach achitzon. Of course, normally the Ketoris is right? Normally it is like the letter a communal offering, not an individual offering, and B, it is burnt on the Mizbeach HaPnimi, on the Mizbeach HaZov, the Mizbeach HaKetoris. There was one instance where you had individuals offering Ketoris on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, and that is by the Nisim, in Parshas Naso, by the inauguration of the Mishkan. It says there, right, that every day a different Nasi brought his korbanos, and it says with that kaf achas asar zov malei ketoris, that there would be a spoonful of ketoris, and that was burnt on the mizbeach hachitzon. It was brought by individual nasim, and it was burnt on the mizbeach hachitzon. So says the brayso, zeu ketoris she'olso layochid on mizbeach hachitzon. This is the example of ketoris coming from an individual that was burnt on the mizbeach hachitzon. For Rosh Hashanah, it was a one and done. That was the only time during the inauguration of the Mishkan. Eicha, what's this a reference to? Amar Papa ben Nisim, it's a reference to the Nisim. Elo yochid al mizbeach achitzon hu delo ho al mizbeach apnimi mika makriv. In fact, the Gemara, is this to imply that was the only instance of an individual offering incense on the mizbeach achitzon? Does that imply that, however, an individual can offer incense on the mizbeach apnimi? Visu, another question, is that to say, al mizbeach achitzon yochid hu delo hatzibur mekarvu? Are we saying that was the only instance of an individual offering incense on the mizbeach achitzon, but maybe the tzibur can offer incense on the mizbeach achitzon? Ve'atanya. But we learn in a brayso against both of those notions. Yachol yeh yochid misnadev umevi kayotze ba nidava. Is it possible that an individual can offer an incense sacrifice? Maybe I could offer incense to the Beis HaMikdash. V'korei ani, and I will say, ba motzei svasecha tishma vasisa, that whatever neder akasha nadarta l'Hashem Elokecha nidava, that you can make a neder, just like you can make a neder to bring a shlamim or some other kind of korban. You can also make a neder to bring incense, to offer incense, and that will go on the mizbeach haketoris, mizbeach hapnimi. Talmud lomar lo sailu olav ketoris zara. It says in the pasuk in Parshas Tetzaveh that we just learned on Shabbos, no foreign ketorises can be offered on the mizbach haketoris. Only the daily ketoris offering in the morning and at night. That is it. Maybe only an individual is prohibited from bringing a voluntary incense offering on the mizbeach hapnimi. Aval tzibor yeh, right? Because after all, there are no instances. We don't have a precedent of. We don't have individuals bringing incense offerings. Now, there's no obligatory individual incense offerings on the mizbeach hapnimi. Aval tzibor yeh maybe chova kayot tzibor. Right, but the congregation every single day there's ketoris that's offering that's offered on the mizbeach hapnimi. Right, the ketoris is offered every day, so maybe we can have other nidavas of the tzibor of incense offerings on the mizbeach hapnimi. Tamaloma lo salu. It says no, you can't have anything else on the mizbeach hapnimi. Not anything other than the daily obligatory incense. Maybe the congregation can't bring additional incense offerings on the mizbeach hapnimi, but maybe on the mizbeach hachitzon. Talmud lomar es shemen hamishcha ves ketoris hasamim lakodesh kechol asher tzivisicha yaisu. Only that which I commanded you to do. The only ketoris that is offered is what was commanded, the daily ketoris in the morning and in the afternoon on the mizbeach hapnimi. That's it. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, lo mibaya ka'amar, what the Bryce is saying is not only this but that, lo mibaya tzibur al mizbeach hachitzon dul ashkichon, that of course the tzibur, the congregation, cannot offer ketoris on the mizbeach hachitzon because there's no precedent for the tzibur to offer ketoris on the mizbeach hachitzon. And certainly an individual, we have no precedent for an individual offering incense on the mizbeach hapnimi. But rather even an individual on the mizbeach hachitzon, the ashkechon b'nesim, that we see that the Nesiim offered ketoris on the mizbeach hachitzon, so maybe individuals can donate ketoris to be offered on the mizbeach hachitzon like the Nesiim. Haras Shah Isa, the Bryce is saying no, that was a one-time thing, and individuals cannot offer incense on the mizbeach hachitzon. Friends, now we move on to a new Mishnah that discusses the Minchas chavitin. The Minchas chavitin was a korban mincha that was brought every day by the high priest. Chavite kohen gadol, the Minchas chavitin lo ayu boin chatzoin elamevi isaron shalom v'chotzeu makriv mechza baboker umechza ben arboim. That, do we have the pasuk here? Let's see. Yeah, that's perfect. The pasuk says in Sefer Vayikra, Perek Vav, Pasuk Yud Gimel, Ze Korban Aharon Uvanov, Asher Yakrivu LaHashem B'Yom Yimashach also, Asir So'efa, Soles Lemincha, Tomid, Machtzisa Baboker, Machtzisa Bo'er. That the Minchas chavitin was an isaron, a tenth of an ephah. Half of it would be offered in the morning, and half of the isaron would be offered in the afternoon. So again, chavite kohen gadol, the minchas chavitin lo ayu boin chatzoyin. So interesting, they wouldn't bring half an ephah to the Beis Hamikdash in the morning and another half an ephah. No. I'm sorry, half an isaron in the morning, and another half an isaron in the afternoon. No. It's slightly more nuanced. Ela mevi isaron shalem. No, what they would do is in the morning they would measure out a full isaron, and they would then break it, divide it in half, v'chotzeyu, and then separate half of the isaron and offer that, right? So they didn't just bring a half isaron, they would first measure out a full isaron, and then from that full isaron, they would measure half an isaron and then offer it. Makriv mechza baboker mechza ben arabayim, and half of the isaron was offered in the morning and half of it in the afternoon. Kohen she'evi mechza shachris vames. What if the Kohen Gadol offered the Minchas chavitin in the morning and then he died? And by the afternoon there was already uminu Kohen acher tachto. By the afternoon there was already a new Kohen Gadol, and he was going to offer his Minchas chavitin, the afternoon Minchas chavitin. Lo yavi chatzi isaron mibei. So similarly, don't bring simply just a half an isaron. V'lo chatzi esrono shel rishon. Also, he shouldn't say, we still have a leftover half isaron from the previous Kohen Gadol who was nifter. Let's burn that, right? Meaning the previous Kohen Gadol that morning had measured out a isaron, taken half of it and offered it in the morning, then he died. So you might think to say, let's just take the other half of the previous Kohen Gadol's isaron from the morning. No. So we're saying that the new Kohen Gadol cannot either bring just a half of isaron or take the other half of the previous Kohen Gadol's isaron. Ella, maybe isaron shalem. Rather, the new Kohen Gadol he brings now a full isaron v'chotzeyu, and then he takes half of it, makriv mechza, and he burns half of it, umechza avad, and then half of it you're just gonna I probably burn, right? You're just gonna get rid of it. Nimsu shnei chatzoyin krevim v'shnei chatzoyin ovnin. So between the two Kohen Gadols, right? So the previous Kohen Gadol had measured out a full isaron. He had offered half of it, and half of it was left over. And the new Kohen Gadol brought a whole isaron, measured out half of it, offered half of it. The other half was left. So of the two isarons, basically, what do we say? Shnei chatzoyin krevim. Two of the halves were offered, and two of the halves were destroyed. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, ilu nemar mincha machzis hayisi omer maybe chatzi isaron mibeso shachris umakriv chatzi isaron mibeso arvis umakriv. If the pasuk would say mincha machzis, half a mincha, so then sure, I would say the Kohen Gadol could bring half an asiris in the morning and another half an asiris in the afternoon. Kilu, not take a full asiris and then divide it in half. He could just take half milichatchila. So Talmud lomar machzisa baboker machzisa be'erev. Half of it. What's it? So half of it. It is whole. Take half of it. Right? Half of a pizza pie. Right? If I say half of a pizza pie, it means a whole pizza pie. Take half of it. Right? Rather, so it's not a half pizza. It's half of a pizza. Half of a whole pizza. So here also, it's a machzisa. Half of the whole isaron was offered in the morning, and the other half of the whole isaron was offered in the afternoon. But it starts out as a whole isaron, and then it's divided in half. Mechza mishalem umakriv. He offers half that was taken from a whole. Haketzad haso, maybe isaron shalem. He brings a full isaron, and then v'chotzeu, he halves it. Makriv mechza baboker umechza ben arbaim, and one of the halves is offered in the morning, and the other half is offered in the afternoon. Nitma mechza shel ben arbaim. What happens if he offers the morning half, and then the afternoon half becomes tummy, so it's unofferable? Osha avad, or it got lost. Yochu yavi chatzi isaron mibeso arbis v'yakriv. So should you just bring half an isaron? Half of it, half of the whole in the morning, but also half of the whole in the afternoon. I.e., if you lost the afternoon half, don't just bring a half. Once again, you're going to have to bring a whole and take a half from the whole. Right? Right? Also in the afternoon, it has to be a half that came from a whole. Mechza mishalem humevi. He has to bring half from a whole. Okay, so maybe isaron shalom mibeso, brings a whole isaron from his house, v'chotzeu, and he divides it in half. Umakriv mechza avad. And he offers half of the second isaron, and the other half of it is going to be destroyed. Nimtzu shnei chatzoyin kravin v'shnei chatzoyin ovdin, which means that day they had brought 2 isarons, divided each one in half. 2 halves ended up being offered on the mizbeach, and 2 of them ended up being destroyed. I imagine probably burnt. Kohen Gadol shikriv mechza shachris v'meis, and a Kohen Gadol who offered, I hope I didn't skip anything. I don't think I did. Kohen Gadol shikriv mechza shachris v'meis, a Kohen Gadol who offered half of the Yisrael in the morning, and then he died. Uminu acher tachtov, and then they appointed another Kohen Gadol in his place. Yachol yavi chatzi Yisrael mi beiso, or chatzi Yisrono shel rishon. Is it possible that the second Kohen Gadol will, it's like we saw in the Mishnah, either bring just a half Yisrael or use the other half of the previous Kohen Gadol's Yisrael? Talmud Omer umachtzisa ba'erev mechza mishalim umevi. Right, so as Rashi points out, umachtzisa ba'erev, right, that the vav is coming to add that even in this situation, don't just take the other half of the previous Kohen Gadol's, bring your own Isaron, right? It's including a situation like this. Also, that he would bring his own Isaron and take half from that full Isaron. Right, as Rashi says, Devav mashma afilu koina omed beno arbaim afalgav dika chetzer Isaron derishon. Right, that even in a situation like this, where you have a new Kohen Gadol in the afternoon, bring a half from a whole. Don't use the previous Kohen Gadol's remaining half. Mechza mishalim umevi, he brings half from a whole umakriv and he offers it. Okay, it's at aso maybe isar and shalom. He brings a whole isar and b'chotzer. He divides it in half. Umakriv mechza, and he offers half of it. Umechza avad, and then half of it's destroyed. Nimtzeu shnei chatzoyin ovdin v'shnei chatzoyin kravin, which means that day there were 2 isarons brought for the Minchas chavitin. 2 halves of them were offered. 2 halves of them were not offered, were destroyed. Tani Tana Kamid of Nachman, a Tana taught before of Nachman, Mechza Rishon v'Mechza Sheni, the unused half from the first Kohen Gadol's Isarun and the unused half from the second Kohen Gadol's Isarun, to Uber Tzurasan, you let them become puzzle Belina, you let them wait overnight without being burned, and then they become puzzle. V'etchel Beis Sreifa, and then they will be burnt. Amr Rav Nachman says, Bishlam Arishin Echzila Krova. I understand why you can't simply burn the second half of the first Isarun right away, because since it was fit to be offered, right, the Kohen Gadol, the first Kohen Gadol had brought a whole Isaron that morning, divided it in half. The first one he offered, the second one was waiting to be offered until the afternoon, and then it was going to be offered. It was fit to be offered. But then the Kohen Gadol died. Now we're not going to burn it. Now we're not going to offer it. So I understand why we can't just burn it, because it was fit to be a korban. We have to wait for it to become pasul belina. But Ela Sheni, Lamale Ibud Surah, Meikar Ibud Osi. But Freg the Gemara, but Freg of Nachman asks, I don't understand why the second half of the Ephah should need to wait until the morning to become pasul belina to be burnt, right? Meaning when the new Kohen Gadol brings the Isarun of which he's going to take just half of it, well, obviously the second half is from the get-go going to be burnt. He brought twice as much as he actually needs, so he's going to divide it in half. One half he's going to burn, the other half, right? Meaning one half he's going to offer, the other half is automatically going to be burnt. There's nothing to do with it. So why should I have to wait till tomorrow morning for it to become pasul? It was milichatchila. We knew we were going to have to burn it. Masha'enkein, the first Kohen Gadol, he didn't know he was going to die. So the whole Isaron was brought with the intention of offering all of it. The second Kohen Gadol, he already knew that he's only going to be offering half of it. So milichatchila, he knew the second half wasn't going to be offered. Why have to wait for it to become pasul? I should be able to just burn it right away. The Amr Lachmani, and says of Nachman, whose Bryce says this? Tana Devei Rabbi Bar Avua, who I think it's Rav Nachman, then saying this is the Bryce of Tana Devei Rabbi Bar Avua, a Bryce taught by the Bismedges of Rabbi Bar Avua, to Amr Afilu Pigel Ta'un Ibur Tzur, that I think the point is that it's Rabbi Bar Avua, or at least it reflects his opinion, that even Pigel, it doesn't get more pasul than Pigel. So if you have meat or something that's Pigel, so you should be able to burn it right away. Why should I have to wait till the morning for it to become pasul? It's already pasul, it's Pigel. And yet, Tana Devei, Rabbi Bar Avua, they say, even Pigel, you don't burn it right away. You wait till the morning, it becomes pasul belina, and then you burn it. So here also, even though the second half of the second Kohen Gadol's Isaron, we know already from the beginning, it's not going to be used. It's going to, right, we're going to have to burn it. still you wouldn't burn it right away. According to Rabbi Avua, you would still wait till the morning and then burn it. Wait for it to become possible belina as well. Rav Ashi Amar says, Rav Ashi, afilu temer rabanu, you can even say that everyone would say that you should wait till the morning, because came to beidna de palgibu, since at the time that the second Kohen Gadol's Isaron was split in half, either half was gain. It's not like one of the halves there was anything wrong with it, milichatchila, that it was doomed from the beginning. No. Initially, the whole Isaron was brought. It was divided in half. At that point, ibai ay makriv, mechze chazi. Since at that point, it was a flip of a coin, luck of the draw. Either half was fit to be offered, and even though the half that's going to end up being burnt didn't end up being offered, but it could have been offered, was fit to have been offered, and therefore, says Rav Ashi, everyone would agree that second half, even though we knew milichatchila that only one of the halves was going to be offered, but it could have been either one. It could have been the one that we're ultimately burning. Therefore, wait till the morning, let it become possibilina before we burn it. Chevre, that was Daf Nun of Masechta Menachos. So, like I had said in the introduction to the daf, there was like a lot of stuff on this daf, but to start going through like every single thing, like the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, the Machlekes between the Chacham and Reb Shimon, and the Chasuri Mechzera, and then the Ketoris, and then the Lechem Aponim, and then the Menorah, it's too much to like just go through every single thing, and I don't know how interesting or valuable that would be. But we did discuss all of those things, all sorts of daily, or in the case of the Lechem Aponim, weekly offerings, and what happens if you missed one in the morning, can you offer it in the afternoon, and what happened during the inauguration, when was it inaugurated, things like that. We talked about the Ketoris, when that was offered, and that there's no donation Ketoris, all sorts of things related to the Korban Tamid, to the Ketoris, to the Lechem Aponim, to the Menorah. And then we discussed the Minchas Havitin, the Kohen Gadol's daily mincha offering. One very interesting note about that was that even though only half of the Isaron would be offered in the morning and half in the afternoon, you would not simply bring a half Isaron. You would bring a whole Isaron, and then a half was taken from that Isaron. And I think it does come up maybe in a Mishnah later on or something that there was never anything. There was never, I think, any at least dry measure. I think not positive, but I don't know that there was any dry measure that was ever less than a Isaron. I think a Isaron was the smallest dry measure, I think. And I think comes up later, because then they say, what about the half Isaron of the Minchas Chavitin? And the point being, well, you take the whole Isaron, and the half measure was really just to be able to divide it in half. Anyways, that was the Minchas Chavitin. And okay, we talked about what happens if the Kohen Gadol dies and they replace him. Also, you would bring the whole mincha and then take half from it. Friends, that was Daf Nun of Masechta Menachos. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.